another, this one here really do it for you.
Baby, I'm yours. Yeah, baby, I'm yours. If it come down to the face, let me show you how to play.
Y'all about my big bro Gerard in the podcast crew.
What's up, everybody? Here we are. The Floor is Yours podcast, and we are black and we are back. We are glad that you guys have decided to join us. We know you got options, but we are glad that you have made us one of your most important options to come sit with us for a spell, as the old folks say, and let's just chop it up. Every week, it is our desire to bring meaningful and powerful conversations to you. Tonight is like that. Tonight we're going to have a conversation I think is very meaningful and powerful. It's going to be retroactive, but it's going to be a topic that is much needed. But before we go any further, I want to encourage everyone to like, share, and subscribe. The link to the Floor is Yours podcast. That's how we can keep these conversations going and growing. So tell your mama, tell your dad, tell your cousin, tell your sister, tell your uncle, tell your goldfish, and tell your puppy that the Floor is Yours podcast is on. And as usual, my main man, my dude, my brother from another mother, Gerard, is with me tonight, here to chop it up. Gerard, say what's up to the peeps.
Hey, great evening, people. Great evening. Hey, Gregory, it's always a pleasure to share the screen with you. Hey, out there in social media land, appreciate y'all spending time. What's that old saying, Gregory? You could have been anywhere, but you're here with us, and we definitely appreciate it. We don't take that for granted. But hey, just want to do a follow-up with you. We say it, and it gets routine sometimes, but we really need y'all to like, share, subscribe. Everything that we do, help us reach, more people. This information is only good if we're reaching people. So, hey, and a plug too. Again, this Floor is Yours podcast where we focus giving a voice to our people. So if you're out there in comments, make sure that you are commenting, and we're going to get to your comments. We promise we'll make time to get to your comments because what you think, what you got to say is important to us. So.
Yeah, absolutely, 100%.
Yeah.
Gerard, tonight we get the privilege of being surrogate big brothers because tonight we want to talk to the young men and we want to go back and we want to reminisce about the things we wish we were told before we became men. And so oftentimes there are these stumbling blocks and these pitfalls and these mistakes that we made. And I don't know about you, but a lot of times we're like, I wish somebody would have told me to look out for this. I wish somebody would have, pulled me by the collar and just said, yo, come here, blood, let me talk to you.
Yeah.
You're going down the wrong path. And so today we want to do that. And so we're not excluding our female listeners as well, although the conversation is about things that boys should know before they came in. If you're a mother, if you're a sister, if you know a man, if you love a man, you want to stick with us too, because the information that we're going to share tonight, you now will have inside of you, and you can share with the young men that are in your life. And you can start having discussions with the grown men in your life about, have you fully thought about this?
Yeah.
How does that affect you today? And so, because one of the biggest tragedies, I think, in our community is the lack of leadership,
Yeah.
All right. And so,
one of the things I'm glad you pointed it out, we're not excluding women. We're focusing on the need.
Never
to
that.
make sure that but we can't do this without our women. So it's not like we're in this silo where everything that we do is not considering, the importance of women in our lives. So we need you listening. If you got men, young men, boys, whatever, get them, let them look at the show tonight if you can.
Yeah, 100%
for everybody. So, and we value your input too. So please, even though we're focusing on men tonight, we do value your input. So if you're in the comments, go out there and follow us, interact with each other, and make comments, and we promise you we'll get to them.
100%. And here, we often say this: we love our black women here. We ain't ashamed. Yeah,
like
we love y'all.
We
love y'all.
Yeah.
Couldn't do without you. Exactly. And so we want to dive right into it. Again, this is the big brother talk that we wish that we would have had when we were younger. And also, if you're an OG, hey, drop your comments too, because you got some wisdom that, hey, maybe there's a lesson you learned that could be a blessing to the other men that are watching. Now, generally speaking, the biggest hurdles or challenges that men have in life that aren't talked about are money and women.
Yeah.
Generally speaking, that tends to be the biggest stumbling block for all of us. And we have to give our parents some grace because they taught us what they taught us. They only knew what they knew, and so a lot of them times they didn't know about Roth IRAs. They didn't know about investing. They didn't know a lot about the stock market. But there are some basic principles that I wish I would have known. The importance of saving, keeping a good credit score, and those things. I got to tell you, I learned a little bit too late, and I had to go back and clean it up. What about you, Gerard?
Yeah, as you were saying that earlier, things that we wish we would have known, that sometimes it can go both ways. Sometimes we have to go through it and then get the lesson so that we can better
Yeah,
understand it too. So there's that element too. But yeah, you're right, man. There are things that I wish we'd have known, but I look back at our parents, when parents are young and they're coming into their own, they're still figuring out and learning things about themselves, right? And at the same time, they're responsible for whole new lives and the well-being of those lives. So you're right. They can only share what they know. But, we love them for it. We don't hold them, anything over their head for what we didn't learn at the
right.
moment. But you're right. There's some things that we wish that we would have known. What I did learn, this, Gregory, is there were people that had that information,
Hmm.
when we were younger, but for whatever reason, whether they were gatekeeping or whether, they didn't feel led to share it or didn't have the time or whatever, they didn't share that information. But, that old saying too, it is better late than never. I just hope that as a parent, you can instill some basic foundational principles in your people, in your kid, in the youth. So at least until they, get around to learning more things about money management, things,
Yeah,
whatever it
yeah,
is, that
yeah,
they still can learn how to be respectful and in a level of honor for all people that that'll help kind of bridge the gap, if you will, until
yeah, yeah.
you get that other information.
Yeah, and it's tricky because a lot of times we really can't blame our parents or grandmothers
Yeah,
or the tribe that raised us because they just didn't know,
yeah,
right? They just didn't know.
yeah,
And so the thing that I wish I knew earlier, or wish someone would have told me when I was a young boy, that when it comes to money, is that money is an excellent tool, but it's a terrible master. It's an
yeah,
excellent tool, but it's a terrible master. A lot of times, culture would tell you, especially as a man, that is your main purpose to go out there and earn that dollar, earn that money. And so the goal then becomes acquiring money, and the more money you have becomes part of your self worth,
yeah,
not knowing that money is just a tool and it's an ebb and flow type of tool. It comes and it goes. It comes and it goes. It's not something that is permanent. You're going to have to constantly replenish it. So it has to be tied to other skill sets and other opportunities like investments and real estate or your creative nature. What
yeah.
have you established? Because money, you have to spend it and then you have to earn it. It's just the dynamic, and so you would never get to a point with money where you never stop managing it, you know. But the goal is that for you to manage it and it not to manage you. I wish there was
Yeah,
something.
and it looks different, right? As depending on what you got going on in life when you're single, if
Hmm.
you're in school, if managing a household, if you have children, if you're married, if you got to help support younger children, like there's so many nuances and dynamics to it that you have to consider. Like there's no one right way. But one thing that I know about us in our community, making money is usually not the issue, right? And so
Okay.
my thing is, I was like, Wayne, I wish I had learned more about keeping money, you know,
Yeah.
and that's kind of closely related to making more money or whatever, or letting your money that you're saving make more
Hmm.
money for you. It's some stuff that we didn't learn, but yeah, that's the biggest part for me. That we like to floss.
Yeah, we do. Yeah, we
can we
do.
be honest about that? Yeah, we like to floss,
Yeah.
and I think it's important to live your life fulfilled too. But I think a lot of that is when we begin to try to impress other people that makes us live beyond our means. And you
Hmm.
talked about earlier the value that we place on each other. If we want to be honest, is monetarily first. I've seen men get in there in our circles where we're discussing what we're, who we are and what we're about. One of the first thing that comes up is where we work, and we want to get into
Always,
the
pretty much
business.
always, yeah.
And that's closely related to how much money you make based off of what you work, right? Where
Because you're
you,
getting sized up in the middle of the
yeah,
conversation. Yeah.
I'm glad you put it that way. You are getting sized up.
hmm
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And a lot of the conversations that another piece of the conversation I wish I would have had is the importance of a budget, and you're alluding to that as well.
yeah,
Of just saying, hey, this is for groceries, this is for entertainment, this is for the bills, and I live within that structure. But when you're just looking at, okay, I got my paycheck, let me just pay some bills. You're not targeting. You don't have a goal. You don't have a target, and your money is just going out the window, but you're not building anything. You
yeah.
know, and so I
Yeah.
wish those was a conversation.
And it's a mindset. I remember my young years in the Army. A gentleman came to my door and he was talking to me about these policies where I can invest my money, starting at 20, 21 years old. And by the time I reached 40s and 50s and 60s, I have amassed millions. And I just remember thinking like, yeah, maybe, but I'll get to that later. And
Right.
I'll be honest,
Yeah.
just only thing I wanted to do at that, not the only thing, but the main, I wanted rims on my car. I wanted a system, a sound system. I wanted the Jordans. I wanted the starter jacket, the pullovers, and I wanted to go to the club and drink. And then when the next pay period come, start it all over again. So I think that's what we can also discuss is like, how do you deal with the now, like the urge to do more and
hmm
surrounding yourself? Because I'm learning as I got older, the information was there in some capacity, but I just wasn't interested in hearing it. And I don't know if that's your story or not, but it is mine.
Yeah, yeah, because and I'm glad you brought that up because we do have a real issue with delayed gratification, especially with youth in general.
Yeah,
It's like I want it now. I want, like you're saying, like I want to floss right now. I want the rims. I want the car. I want the fashion and all this. We don't think one day you're going to be 50 years old, and that stuff not going to be important to you. It's good
right.
to build this nest egg along the way,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
And so we do also need, along with money management, someone to tell us, play the movie forward. Think about how you want to live, not just today, but how you want to live in 40, 50, 60, 70, and 80. That's also your responsibility to do. And tucking away a few dollars into this investment account will help those days be a lot easier for
yeah, yeah. My boy Ron. First he said, "What's up, floor is yours, family." Misha is out there too. Appreciate it. I see tuning in. She said, "What it do? Dark chocolate espresso and butter pecan."
you. That's
Hey,
right. What's up, sis? We love you.
I like them names, but I ain't gonna change my name to it either. But what Ron said, wish I would have learned to invest my money when I was in my 20s, and we was talking about that. So I'll let you respond to that before we move on.
Yeah, 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 absolutely. I think it's important to, if you have a young man around you, to instill in him the importance of using your money wisely and making that a lifestyle. Like we often would say, with like when you're training for sports, you got to keep your body in good condition. Well, when it comes to money, you got to keep your money in good condition as well, because it has to last you. You want to have a fulfilling life, and part of that, it does include money management. And so the trick, I think, is to start even before you're a teenager. So if you give your kids an allowance, tell them, okay, if I gave you $10, out of that $10, I want you to save at least two. Three is for entertainment, and the rest could be for food. But show them in small increments the importance of keeping a stash, and then if you save, you can have a better birthday present. You can have a better Christmas. You can have a better summer vacation, and show them the benefits of saving to reach a goal later down the line.
Yeah, that's good, man. And another thing to consider too, for the youth, especially when they're in their 7, 8, 10, 12 years, they're so impressionable at that age. Social
Yeah,
media, TV,
yeah,
all these things is telling them, and they can be counterproductive to the lesson that you're teaching. So you're also gonna have to manage what they're taking because let's be honest, the rims, they're flashy and shiny for a reason, and then they might be $1,000, but you can do a payment plan and then interest. And then that payment, it's just slowly just eating away. at everything. So I guess the point I'm making is you also got to battle what the world is out there putting in your youth head as well. So it's that's a challenge.
hmm That is a challenge. Absolutely right. So money tends to be one of those conversations that that young men need. And to your point, Gerard, if you have a young man in your life, there are so many resources out there, and so many different perspectives that you can cling to. So if you're looking to do money management, I would encourage you to find a program that's unique to your preference. Because if you're a Christian, they got Christian money management educators. If you're a woman, they got money management for women or young business owners. So you can find something that appeals to your specific lane. You can find someone that appeals to your specific age demographic. And so there are programs out there that are designed to help teach young kids money management starting at a young age. And so, and I don't mean to sound rude in this, but if your kids are struggling in this area, it's because you're a lazy parent. Because at least you could do is Google a YouTube video. And the great thing about today's age that our parents didn't have is that us as parents today, we don't have to know the answers. We can Google it. We don't have to already have had to go to the library and study and go talk to people. The answer is right there for us.
Yeah,
And
that's real.
so that tends to be a big stumbling block for men as we enter in our 20s and our 30s is money management. And that is an important issue that I hope a lot of more men are getting now.
Yeah,
How's that?
and just to add, and I know we're going to talk about this more in depth later, but also making them understand or helping them to understand that their value is not in how much money they have. I think
Mhm.
that's another part of it too.
Yeah,
So,
yeah,
yeah,
that's a big deal for men.
yeah,
Big deal for men. Yeah, yeah. And so we got a lot of topics we're going to talk about today. And one of the things also that is we talked about money and women. We're going to save women a little bit later on because I know that's going to be a hot topic to talk about
yeah,
men and their sexuality. So we're going to save that juicy stuff for a little bit further in the show. But another thing that I think is important that young men don't really get, Gerard, is career focus, a path to stability, finding their lane about who they want to be when they grow up. I mean, and who they want to be as a man, how they want to live, and what is it that they want to do. One of the key things I think about being a parent, when I think about being a parent, is as a parent, you should be studying your child. And you should be looking into your child's daily habits and routines and find out what their natural proclivities are. What are their natural tendencies? What are the things that they really do well? Because not everybody's going to be academically strong, and that's okay.
yeah,
Intelligence shows up in many different ways. You can be book smart, you can be street smart, you can be artistic. There's a lot of different ways that a person's intelligence can show up, right? So we're not just limited to, well, if you don't get straight A's, then you're doomed. That's not true.
yeah,
And
yeah,
so as a parent, I think it's important for us to say, here's a path for you. You know, this isn't the traditional path, but here is your path. And so if you have a child who is, 10 or above, we need to start having those conversations
yeah,
about what do you want to do with your life. You don't have to know the answers, but at least give them a framework of their identity to say, but I know that you're good at cooking. Have you ever thought about being a chef? You're
yeah.
a really good singer. You thought about maybe being a music teacher,
A
you
rapper.
know? Well, okay. Yeah, we could do that too. Uh, Athletic skills,
Yeah,
because not everybody's going to be a doctor or a lawyer, and that is okay. There's nothing wrong with that. But to know your child and to really honestly evaluate, here's a path to stability for you. Here's something that comes
yeah,
natural to you, easy for you, and here's how you can secure your future.
yeah.
What do you think about that, Gerard?
Yeah, all that is good. And what you got me thinking about is how intentional we should be with exposure, right? There's some things you don't even know, and you don't even know that you don't know them. But
Right.
at school they got the career days, and we just can't be solely dependent on the educational system, our schools exposing our children. So I remember, growing up in the neighborhood, and there was people with all kind of skill sets. There was entrepreneurs that I wouldn't consider in entrepreneurs. They had their own lawn service. There were
Oh yeah.
contractors, that could, do work magic with their hands when it came to repairing and remodeling homes and all that kind of stuff right there. Mechanics. So it's important again to exposure, give them exposure. Let them go around. We had programs in the summer called, JTPA. That was teach them basic skills in the office and, computers, all kinds of stuff. So exposure is another big part of it. And don't totally depend on your schools and teachers and coaches to do that. You have to be active yourself as a parent. And I get it. Sometimes you're tired at the end of the day, long work day, kids been at school all day. You might have 3-4 hours in the evening at the most to spend with your kids. But this stuff is so important. And that exposure part of it is so important when you come in and giving them choices, right?
Yeah.
Things that they could possibly do.
Yeah. And also removing, another component I think is also removing the shame of the particular career that you have, because just saw a news story the other day that America, the country, is in need in the next 2 to 3 years, 500,000 electricians, 800,000 plumbers, and I think like 700,000 AC repair people. So these are traditional trade school jobs, right? Blue collar work. Now, what was great about this story is that there's a high school, I forget the name of the high school, but high school up north that is, while you're in your senior year, training you for these career paths. These young men and women are graduating, knowing welding, AC repair, plumbing, and starting out making $80,000 straight out of high school.
Yeah.
That is definitely setting them up for stability and a career path. And like you said, they can start out, right, as an intern or working with someone else. That can lead them to entrepreneurship, owning their own business, and then employing other people. Could you imagine if us as Black men started that way, and then we're able to hire other Black men, train them in a career that's going to give them stability, help them feed their family, and the cycle just repeats itself over and over and over and over again. And so
I love how those how they build on each other. Earlier you was talking about the money management, and then you're going into your career, and they're closely aligned. But you're right, and just a little wisdom about why they're going to need so many electricians and HVAC and welders. You got an aging infrastructure. Houses and schools and other buildings are going to need updating and refurbished and all that, and there's going to be a shortage of them. But the ones who was proactive and got in there and got the skill sets, they're going to make a lot of money. They're going to make a lot of money, and it's a skill set that transfers outside of that immediate job, if you will. I remember learning how to do certain things with my car as I was growing, and how it related, just the basic tool usage, if you will, when I'm doing other things, when I'm using the drill, in the house, how I can use the drill, on the car doing repairs, whatever. So it is getting out there and learning those skill sets. It's invaluable. And I'll be honest, Gregory, and you may agree with me, that sometimes there's nothing that's more, what's the word I'm looking for? Refreshing or makes you stick your chest out when you can do something yourself with your own.
100%. Yeah, 100%. Yeah. As a man, I do stand a little taller when I fix something around the house.
Yeah, man.
For sure. No matter how minor it is, I did something. I did.
And you even put a smile on your lady's face sometime when you can fix that pipe, that leaky pipe, or that garbage or something. Right? Yeah.
Just pull out the hammer too, even if you don't need it. I'm just gonna pull out the hammer, make me feel.
feel good about myself. You ready to pick up that phone? Hey, I got this, baby. Don't worry.
100%. 100%. I think, it just echoing a lot of stuff where I was saying, you got to remove the shame just because, hey, your classmate next to you is valedictorian and they're going off to an Ivy League school, but you have now found a trade in HVAC or engineering or electrical. That is just as valuable and just as worthy, and you should be just as proud of yourself that you have found something in life that's going to keep you stable. Because at the end of the day, that's what really matters. Are you able to take care of yourself and the people that you love? That's the
honest dollar. And I'm glad you talked about the shame part of it, because I see people try to shame people for certain jobs, like CNA, right? You're a certified nurse's aide, and they call you, all kind of nasty names. But here we are, people that are making an honest dollar, going to work 9 to 5, and it's sad, but I mean, I see it all the time that people try to look down on you because you got a certain blue collar job or something, and it's ridiculous.
It is. It's honest living. You may have heard this before, but I think as a whole, we should respect everyone equally. If you're a CEO or you're the janitor,
Yeah,
if you're a person out there doing an honest day living, hard work with integrity, that deserves respect.
for sure, for sure.
Yeah, most
Yeah,
definitely. Yeah.
yeah.
Any, how we doing with the comments? Anybody commenting on the show so
Yeah,
far?
we got Mia Davis, my good sister from another mister. She's replying to Misha's comment earlier. She said, "You a Reese's peanut butter cup."
I like to think of myself as butterscotch. You
Okay,
know,
butterscotch. Yeah.
butterscotch. Yeah.
My
Hmm.
boy Corey from Texas County, he's checking in. And another unorthodox job for men, if you will. So Corey is a surgical tech, so
Oh,
he
nice.
he he dons his scrubs day in and day out, and then I've heard men that look down on men that are, nurses or
Yeah,
medical
it's
assistants.
largely women in that role,
Yeah,
absolutely. But ain't no, I mean, there's, of course, with nurses, largely women, but there's some men that do it as well. It's an honest day living, you know. And what you will find in those industries where it's one gender dominated, they actually find it refreshing to have someone else of the opposite gender to
yeah,
show up because there are some times where I'm sure a man would be needed. When there's
of course.
a heavier patient, and then in the hospital is always something heavy to lift up.
Yeah,
So it's great to have
yeah.
that
And
variety
then
of
it's honest
perspective.
dollar at the end of the day too. So yeah, something to
Absolutely,
take pride in. Yeah,
absolutely. So another thing that I wish somebody would have pulled me by the collar and would have told me, I want to dive into my spirituality, my relationship with God for a
yeah,
moment, talk about it. Of course, I am a licensed and ordained minister, and I think that although I've always had a relationship with God, I don't ever remember a time in life where God was not big in my life. I didn't really have an understanding of God. So I felt like I had a relationship, but
yeah,
I didn't know a lot of facts about God. So I didn't know any scripture. I didn't know about the Bible. I think it wasn't until I was in high school that I actually knew that there was an Old Testament and a New Testament. And like, I was like, my eyes just bugged out my head. Like, this book is divided in halves. So
yeah,
what I wish somebody would have pulled me aside and say, okay, let's talk about God. Let's talk about who he is and what he means or what he should mean to you. He can be a refuge. He is a friend. He is your source. What is great about having a relationship with God and why it's important for men is that that is the only validation that is really needed.
yeah,
If you feel you are validated from God and yourself, everybody else's validation and compliments are just icing on the cake.
yeah,
When you have a real relationship with God, you will find that the criticism from the world is less impactful because you know who your real friend is and you know who your real source is. So if the kids in your classroom don't like you, God still loves you. If the people at your job don't like you, God still loves you. If your girlfriend start tripping, God still loves you. And what that does is that allows you the confidence to keep moving forward. So I wish somebody would pull me to the side and say, God must be first.
yeah, yeah. And, I grew up in a church. I had two uncles, twin uncles. They were pastors. Grew up in the church. I used to love going to church, and I remember
Yeah.
my mom friends would make jokes when I was younger, like, yeah, she would say he's always wanted to go to church with me, and she was telling my mom like, hey, let him go because one day he ain't gonna want to go. But I just remember back in those days, just the fellowship was cool, being
Mm,
around people. But the other thing, it had me in my mind all the time that even if my mom and dad or the teacher or the coach wasn't there, like there was somebody else that I was accountable to, and I think that the world could use a big dose of that reminder to letting them know, like, hey, you might be fooling Gerard or Gregory, but there's somebody that sees all and knows all, and you're gonna be held accountable for that. So that healthy level of fear of God is good, And I sometimes it can go overboard, and and they'll teach you that God going to strike you down, and you're going to hell, and all that. And I'm
yeah,
not talking about that. I'm
yeah,
talking about that true reverence for
right.
God that says, like, I want to please the Creator of all things, and that was instilled in me at a young age, and it's carried me through when I felt like people didn't deserve grace and forgiveness and honor and all that stuff right there. But it transcends my own emotions, my fears, and my anger and things of that nature. So that relationship with God is important, and I can't imagine being yoked up with somebody, especially in the closest proximity with someone that don't have that same reverence for someone other than self, right? Because again, we can fool each other, but knowing that it's somebody else that I have to answer to, that's a humbling and keeps me grounded, if you will.
Man, I love that. I love that you brought that up. That does give you like an extra layer of accountability, right? And so it's like, even if you want to not do the right thing, your relationship with God will hopefully pull you back in line to say, I'm gonna do the right thing, I'm gonna say the right thing, I'm gonna stand by the principles that I know are important. That's great, because a man that's not accountable to anybody is a danger to everybody.
Yeah, man, we're seeing a lot of that right now. Not to get political, but yeah, we're seeing
We
it.
go, we're gonna get political here in about 5 minutes. Y'all just stick around. We're gonna get Gerard Crunk, because that's his lane.
Oh man, listen
He
to
about to turn up. But we do need accountability as men. There has to be someone or some principle, some mission statement in a man's life that says, "This is what I live by. This is what shapes my thinking and my actions." He has to have that. I think also another component of what makes the relationship with God so important, because it gives you a focus of where you're striving to go, right?
yeah.
And so as you get to know Christ, as you get to know God, what happens is that you begin to get clarity on why are you here.
Mhm.
Not everybody's going to have a worldwide ministry. Not everybody's going to have a church. Not everybody's going to be an author that writes a book that sells 1 million copies. That's not true. But what does happen is that you find out that your contribution to your family and to your community is very important. And
Yeah,
so what you will find is that God has brought you to these people for a reason. That you live in this neighborhood, that you live in this city, you live in this state, and you have these kids for a purpose. And your relationship with God gives you a sense of, I'm not going to get distracted by by the small things, the things
yeah,
that aren't important,
yeah,
because now that I know God, God has this assignment on my life. It doesn't matter the size of the assignment. What matters is the value of the assignment. And if
amen.
it's a God-given assignment, it has great value on it. And so as a man, what that gives you is that it gives you the stability to keep going, because there's going to be times in every man's life when he doesn't feel like it's worth it. What I'm doing isn't worth it. What I'm saying, what I'm trying to accomplish, who cares?
Yeah,
But when you know you have an assignment, you get up every day, you keep pushing toward it.
that's dope. That's dope. I used to tell people all the time that your greatness is relevant only to your circle of influence, right? So
Mhm.
if you're responsible for one person and you're on a desert island and deserted island, and it's just y'all two, be great, right? And that's what it matters, right? So sometimes we overlook those in our closest proximity, right? And we out, tending to the world, which don't mean that we can't have a ministry that extends, who's directly in front of us. But my point is, you got to take care of home first, and those,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah,
So
yeah,
that's
yeah,
nothing. So if I
absolutely.
want to ask the audience out there, what does God mean to you? How has God helped you, and not offer, what advice would you offer to some young man about the necessity of having God in their life? And why if I'm hoping people will put that in the comment, but while they're working on that, putting that in the comment, let's go to a commercial break, and then when we come back, we'll read those comments. So is that cool with you?
Sounds good to me, sir.
All right, cool.
Every man battles something, but not every man has a space to heal. Texarkana, September 27, 2025, at Radiant Church. It's time to create the life you want. Join Jamar Bruce and Gerard Ware for a powerful, purpose-driven experience focused on breaking the stigma behind men's mental health. This life-changing event features a dynamic panel of real conversations, live performances and entertainment, epic giveaways, and special guest appearances. Featuring Sunday Best Season 6 runner-up, Kothia Rollerson, keynote speaker, Gregory McKinney, hosted by nationally renowned comedian Derek Keener. This is more than an event, it's a movement, a place for healing, strength, and community. Don't miss your chance to be a part of something great. Together, let's create the life we want. Secure your spot today at www.lifeiwantevent.com.
I ain't ashamed. Jesus took my guilt and he broke every chain. Mental health is wealth and I'm choosing to heal.
The Life I Want conference, man. I tell you, I get more and more excited about that every day. Every time I see that commercial, I get little tingles, goosebumps. Like, this is going to be good. This is going to be good.
Yeah, www.lifeiwantevent.com. And we're going to be talking about a lot of the stuff that we're talking about now. And there's a part we're carving out specifically for the youth. So just we hadn't talked about this, but we got a group coming from Vegas. And they specialize in mentoring the youth. One of the brothers, Brother Pullum, I've done some work with him in Vegas at a men's conference. But he has a nonprofit called Gentlemen by Choice. And they work with the youth and show them the importance of being gentlemen, chivalry, making sure that we're kind to each other, especially our female counterparts. So it's going to be a great event. Lifeiwantevent.com. Go to the website, get your tickets. It's September the 27th. Down in Texarkana, and we want to make sure we get everybody there, especially to listen to what my boy Gregory got to say. He is our keynote speaker, so man, we're looking forward to a great event.
I'm gonna come with it. I ain't holding back. We polite and pretty and polished here on the show.
Yeah.
But we're gonna get there. I'm gonna get all the way lit. I'm gonna go.
Man, we're gonna get like one of those East Texas preachers. You're gonna be whooping.
I'm gonna do it all. I'm gonna have I'm gonna need the towel to wipe my head and the sweat.
Yeah.
Come on, I'm gonna bring it.
Awesome.
It's gonna be good. It's gonna be great. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, so no comments came through. So, I know we was ending the discussion about how important God is, our spiritual life. So I don't know if you want to wrap that up and then we'll go to the next topic. Or
Yeah, definitely. I think that is just a great foundation for all young men to develop a muscle that needs to be strengthened every day. I would say it is the top priority for us to know that, you may be born in a community that is struggling, or you may have some type of thing that you perceive as a handicap, but you were created on purpose for a purpose, and you are not forgotten, and you are not less than, and it's only in God and through God that your greatness will be manifested. So, hey, young man, old head, whoever you are, strengthen your relationship with God, and you'll find that your entire life just begins to transform. I guarantee it. So, as we were talking, something popped in my head, Gerard, just you and I, because we've been friends now for a number of years, and we're good friends, and oftentimes we talk and we get real. I was thinking about the importance of friendship in a man's life, and oftentimes that is something that we don't talk about. Like, we say we got the homies, but we don't talk about a lot the importance of having good male friends around you.
Yeah.
I was reminded by a good friend of mine recently who sent me this video. I forget who the guy was, but he was talking about how he doesn't do business with men that cheat on their wives. Because he was like, hey, if you cheat on your wife, the person that sleeps next to you, the person you made vows to, what makes me think that you wouldn't do the same to me?
Yeah.
And so having friendships, and not just friendships, but friendships of integrity, of men that have integrity, of a value. I want to ask you that question, Gerard. Would you be friends with a man that cheated on his wife?
I have been, so maybe I need to be checked on that. But and not say that, not boasting, but just realizing that there are people that have done some questionable acts, and I know we tend to focus on fidelity or drug usage or whatnot, but
But there's one thing for someone to say who has cheated, because I'm friends with men who have cheated in the past.
Yeah.
But actively cheating, right now he has a side.
That's a good point. Man, I'm glad, man. I love these hard discussions, and I'll say this: I've been with one that was actively cheating, and he was torn. And I'll say this: it was I was at a point where I didn't want to abandon him, and he looked to me and some of the other brothers, for guidance, and he kind of, if you will, came to me more often because he felt like it was non-judgment, and it was like, man, I just need help working through this situation. I'm in a situation that I don't like, right, and I don't feel valued, and over here I do, kind of thing, and it's a tough situation, where he felt like he was in a marriage that he never should have gotten in, kind of thing, but So, but just to answer your question, yeah, and it's one of those things like you have to be. I think it's the Galatians verse that talks about when you with somebody that's fallen to sin,
Yeah.
that those who are spiritual work with him, but also for them to be careful so that you don't succumb to the same temptation. So
Yeah.
it's a ministry for them and a way to interact with them. But I mean, to the point you're getting someone that's kind of unrepentant, whatever. It's funny business, man. So yeah, I just tell people in that situation, be guided by the Holy Spirit and let him.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's important to put people in the proper categories. Is this a friend or is this ministry? Right?
Of course.
Because the Bible does say bad company corrupts good character.
Yeah.
And so I think that you said that the people who are spiritual should come and cover and should work and should nurture and give this young brother some guidance on. But I would be careful with calling this person a friend, but I would not avoid ministry to him. You know, I wouldn't ostracize him. I wouldn't cancel him. You know, but like, hey, we're gonna have some hard conversations here. But I don't know if I would call him a friend because you do business with somebody. Because you started, could you, Gerard, go into business, open up a barbershop with a dude who you know is cheating on his wife?
Man, I'm not going to say I wouldn't, and let me say this because there's other questionable behaviors. Is why I'm saying that. So to isolate one and say like, you know what, I'm gonna down this hill. I'm not quick to say that about it. But to your point though, if we're trying to live a whole life while we are growing and maturing, you know, on earth as it is in heaven, I think you know you need to be working on the total man anyway. So whether it's infidelity, whether it's gluttony, whether it's pride, whether it's anger, like I think I'm just as fearful of a man who's emotionally immature, you know, that's gonna go out the deep end when somebody, you know, does something that he don't like, you know, kind of thing. So to answer your question, I do get your point. Like, hey, you want to be with trustworthy people if you're going into business. But I'm just saying I wouldn't solely isolate that one, you know. And it's like, hey, if we're going to try to grow, let's grow. Let's everybody. I just say this in the army. Let's everybody get all the way right, you know.
Right.
Right there. So,
Absolutely.
You know.
And this is what friendship has to look like. You know, I believe a real friend tells you what you don't want to hear.
Oh man.
You know what I'm saying? I don't think you're my friend.
How do you get to that point, right? Like, because a lot of us, we surround ourselves with people who won't challenge us.
They're not your friends. They don't love you, because someone that loves you, it's going to be hard to say it, but I got to say it. You know, like, hey, you're not moving right.
So can I say this?
Decisions. What's up?
That they maybe not as mature of a friend, is developed as a friend.
That's a good point.
I don't want to challenge the point of friend, because these people could genuinely care about you. But you know, we can be so desensitized to certain things, or you know, raised a certain way, to think a certain way, or whatever. So, you know, I say that because I've been in these situations but people have told me that someone was my friend, and I'm like, man, they got my back on some stuff. Like I have depended on them, man. I slept in a car and I called a good friend that was in the middle of some stuff, and he opened his door for me, you know, and it was like, man, it's something that I'll never forget. So I'm just saying, I'll be careful about saying that he's not a friend. Maybe he's not as mature in a certain arena, if you will, as he could be. But you know, who is?
And friendships are really important. So my best friend, I rarely refer to him as my best friend. When I talk about him, I always say my brother, because that's where our relationship has transcended to. So my brother and I, my mother passed in 2002. And so after that, I felt this strong urge that if you love somebody, tell them, because you don't know how much longer you have with them. So around 2002, after my mother passed, I started talking to my brother, and at the end of every conversation, I remember I said, "I love you." And in the beginning, now my brother is a very, very alpha male. Like he is like hardcore stoic, works out 20 times a day. You know, like he's that kind of dude. And it took him about 6 or 7 months before he started replying, "I love you" back. And now we say it easy. Now it's just like every time we have a conversation, "Love you, bro. Love you." and we end the conversation with that. And I think also I bring that up just because men sometimes have a hard time saying to the other men, "You mean something to me."
Yeah,
Like you got me through this storm. You got me through this struggle. Man, I appreciate you having my back because that I was really down low, but you really helped me come up. And I
yeah,
really appreciate you. And so I would say to young men, find friendships where you can feel transparent and where the support and where the encouragement is reciprocated, where you both see value in each other, and that's okay. That's not being soft. That's not being feminine or anything. That's just saying, hey, I respect what you bring, and I'm glad you respect what I bring.
yeah,
You know,
yeah.
we're here for each other.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's good, man. That's good. I got a comment right here from Mia. I want to make sure we take time out to address this. She said, "Woo, emotional maturity is big. Flying off the handle all the time and no accountability. I can only take in so much of that. I'm not Jesus. My grace isn't that sufficient. Let God do it." You're right. You know, and you know that whole thing. Jesus is our perfect example. We do strive for that, but also there is a realization that we're not Jesus, right? And so, with that being said, it's important when you can to limit your interaction with people that mean you no good, or people that's emotionally immature and constantly flying off the handle, you know. And you know they can come disguised as people of God. I know one particular that I call him a troll. He's an older guy. He sits in my comments, man. And every time I make a post, here he comes. He don't acknowledge anything good. He just focuses on one thing, and then he goes. And I look at him, and, you know, I'm pretty sarcastic, you know, and I can be petty at times. And I hit at him, and then I have to go repent, right?
Hmm.
So my point is,
They pulled it out of you.
he said, man, you got to be careful because hey, to be a point, we're not Jesus. And you know, we got to know where our ministry is and use discernment to figure out where we need to go and who we need to address. But you know, other than that, yeah, great comment there. Appreciate it.
Appreciate you, me. Yeah, yeah, definitely. You know, and that just goes into one of the next topics is emotional intelligence. Um, we as young, you can never start too early with fully understanding yourself and learning how to manage your emotions and learning how to communicate those emotions. And unfortunately, I don't know about you, Gerard, but unfortunately for a lot of men, we aren't allowed to have many emotions, and we are allowed to show even less emotions.
Yeah,
And so it's very tricky as you are growing up, especially as a teenage boy, and you're so full of emotions, but
yeah,
everyone tells you you can't say it, you
yeah,
can't show it. You have to remain in self control,
yeah,
and that's a heart attack waiting to happen.
for sure, for sure.
That's an
Yeah,
explosion waiting to happen.
yeah, and that's why I love your book because you address that shameless plug for your book. You know,
Thank
emotional
you.
intelligence is part of it, right?
Yeah.
You understand the emotion. You don't act like it's not there, but you learn how to process it. I tell people this: I'm not telling you how to feel, but I am talking to you how to respond. You know, right? And that's what's most important: how you to regulate your emotions so that you respond in a healthy way. You know, but
Absolutely.
every now and then, I don't know. You have to flip tables like Jesus, man. But you know, it take that sometimes because people will try you, man. Here's another comment right here from Mia. She says she's an empath, so she feels she's a feeler already. If I'm not careful, I get easily drained if I don't recharge. What do you think about that? Empaths, right? I agree wholeheartedly, brother. You're out there and people can sense that in you, right? And or see that in you, and they're attached to you, and you have to be careful not to take on everything from everybody.
Mia, you and I are cut from the same cloth because I'm an empath too. By trade, I am a life coach, right? And so all day, my job basically consists of hearing everyone tell me their problems all day long. And God has wired me in such a way that I actually find that enjoyable. I know people people would like would find that unbelievable, but I do actually find listening to people's problems and helping them find solutions an enjoyable thing.
Yeah,
But at the end of the day, I am just as exhausted as if I ran a marathon. So, Mia, I completely relate. And so, Mia, I would encourage you to find your way to refresh yourself. And for all of us fellow empaths out there, you got to find a way to still away, to find some quiet time. If it's a 30-minute shower, if it's going for a 30-minute walk, if it's having a private concert with your headphones on and just rocking out, whatever it is that it takes for you to get recalibrated, for for you to get refreshed, for you to get restored, you do that thing unashamedly, whatever that thing is, because the needs of others are omnipresent. It's not going to stop. It's always going to be a new need popping up every day. And so, but we have to equip ourselves to say, okay, I need to refill my tank. I need to go back to the gas station. I need to put on my favorite music, and I need to recharge. So absolutely.
Yeah. She said, bless you, Gregory. I'm learning to balance. I love it and feel it's a blessing and sometimes a curse. It is that double-edged sword sometimes, right?
Yeah, it does sometimes feel like a curse because you're not seen as a person. You're seen as a tool. I get that a fair amount in life with people that know me. It's like, hey, can you chat for me about 20 minutes? You got a second? I want to run this by you, and without even saying how are you first, or how's your day, checking in with me. It's just like, yo, what you up? And so I'm probably sure that you run into the same thing too. It does sometimes feel like a curse, but you know what? It's my calling. It's the way God made me, so I've accepted it. And my challenge now is to find balance.
Count it joy, brother. Count it joy. Yeah.
Yep. So, but wrapping up emotional intelligence. Listen, as men, as a young man, and even as an adult male, you're going to feel a wider range of emotions on a daily basis, and especially as a young man. We're going to jump into the political awareness here in like 2 seconds, but I want to say this before we jump into it, is that your feelings are valid, young man. If there's any young man watching right now or any OG out there watching, listen, what you feeling, if you feel scared, that's important. If you feel fear, that's important. If you feel lust, if you feel love, if you feel heartbroken, all of those things are valid and need to be addressed. Don't ignore your feelings, acknowledge your feelings, but as Gerard just said, learn how to respond with those feelings. Be honest with how you feel. Don't lie about it. If your heart is broken, your heart is broken. And guess what? Nobody makes it through life without getting their heart broken. It happens. If you feel sad, guess what? Nobody makes it out of life without feeling sad. Be honest with your emotions, and then you can get an honest response that's going to lead to a healthy choice.
Yeah. I like that you just to wrap that up too, when you talk about heart being broken, being honest, in this world where everybody's player, like when they act like it didn't bother them, right?
No.
But what you end up seeing is people lashing out and carrying that hurt to somebody else that didn't even deserve it. So you're right, especially broken hearts. Deal with it, process it in a healthy way so that you can move past that.
Man, I said this before. Next to losing a child, people have said a heartbreak is the hardest thing they've ever been through.
Yeah, man, I can contest to it, man.
Yeah.
It's tough.
I can relate.
I'm stronger. Count it joy.
That's right. So many things young men need to be talking about. Of course, we got our mental health, our physical health, our emotional intelligence, friendships. But I also think that it's important as we wrap it up here. Political awareness. We live in a country that sometimes feels like it's attacking us, that doesn't like us just because of the color of our skin, or what country our parents came from, or because we just look different than the people that are in power, or we have different ideals from the people that are in power.
Yeah.
And so we got to learn what is our response? What is our retort when we feel that the powers that be don't have our best interest in mind? I mean, do we march the streets? Do we go vote? We got to know those paths and those choices that we have available.
Yeah, that's true. And one thing I'll encourage our men is to get in and know. I'm not saying that you need to run for a position, but at the minimum you need to know. And because if not, I say that you run yourself in danger of being irrelevant, right?
Yeah.
And you just need to know if you're leading a family. If you have parents that are aging, Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, health insurance, schools, there's all these things that as leaders in the community and leaders of our families that we should be aware of. And so, again, I'm not telling everybody to run for politics and turn it to CNN and MSNBC and Fox News 24/7, but you do need to be aware of what's going on, so that you can be relevant to not just yourself, but the people you're responsible for.
Absolutely, because we walk around with this anxiety. I mean, it's not abnormal to turn on the television and find that someone of color has been unjustly accused of something or treated unfairly. And we all feel a sense of anger, hostility, and anxiousness in us when we feel like we're living in a country or a city or a state that we have to be careful that our young boys don't go out and we don't know if they're going to make it back home. So
Yeah,
we have to be informed and we have to educate our young boys. This is how you handle yourself. The
yeah,
goal is to make it home. The goal is just to make it home.
yeah. And you know, the scary part of that too is some people get anxious, but even more bothersome for me is we're normalizing it, and some people feel nothing. It's like, hey, just another day, you know. And I remember, as George Floyd when that happened,
Hmm.
and the outrage just from everybody. And I think what made that one particularly different is that camera was focused in on him for so long as that cop choked the life out of him. So that they responded, but there have been countless deaths since then,
Yeah,
and it don't even make headlines anymore. And
yeah.
it's a sad thing that we're in a state where that's still happening, and we can just look at it and like, dang, on to the next.
Gerard, I don't know if you know this straight off the cuff, but like if someone was interested in learning politics or the hierarchy or who's the first person to call, is there a resource out there? Is what is available for people who want to get more informed about the political system? Where can they go?
Yeah. So, I was talking to some good friends earlier, and we talked about how social media has, changed our society so much, a lot for the bad, but it's a tool. We talk about money as a tool and other things as a tool. Social media is here, and there's a lot of stuff out there that the politicians use to reach the masses. So what I would say is look for a credible source, somebody that's under control and dependable, that passionate about, the politics and love for people, because there's a lot of politicians out there that don't love people, right? And
Right.
it's obvious in their policies and their rhetoric. But I would tell people you can go to social media, but be careful what you take in. Google. And number one, find out what in the area you're in. Find out who your local politicians are, and what are your convictions. If it's the homeless, if it's health insurance, there are people that are championing those issues. I would say start there so that you don't have to have cast such a large net to try to figure out what's going on in so many areas, but find out like what's most important, what's most urgent to you. And it might not necessarily be you. You might again have some parents that are aging, and they're worried about if Social Security is going to be around. If they have Medicaid to help them, cover their medical expenses and prescriptions. So figure out whatever it is that you're most passionate about. And there are some leaders out there that are championing those issues. And I would say start there.
Great, great. Well, we cannot leave without talking about the Life I Want conference, and we want to give people another opportunity to register for it. We want to give them the date so they can be aware of it. It is September 27th. It's going to be in Texarkana, and so right down the street. And so we want everyone to purchase their tickets now. So if you enjoy conversations like this, then you will absolutely love the Life I Want conference. We're going to have a panel of guests with a variety of perspectives and a variety of ideas about what men need to better themselves so they can be better husbands, better leaders, and good for their communities here. And it's not just for men. We do want to stress that. So if I always say, if you know a man or you love a man, you are welcome. The doors are open to you as well. And so we want to see you in the house. It's going to be a great time. You will regret it if you're not there. So make sure that you show up for this powerful time. It's going to be amazing. And I am really looking forward to it as well.
And just to add to that, you said this for everybody. I
Yep.
tell people we're mobilizing the community around us. So I don't care what your race is, what your religion is, or your theological beliefs, what your job is, your
Hmm.
profession, or whatever.
Hmm.
We're talking about how can we empower Black men, in the area of mental health. And, our mental are affected by so many different things, right? It's our
Yeah.
finances, it's our children, the health of our spouses and our parents and our schools. And we're going to talk about all this stuff right there, right? It's not just, I'm upset or angry or I'm going crazy. It's like, what are you dealing with? Whether it's depression, whether it's anxiety, those things are pretty common, but there's ways you can deal with anxiety and depression and, and your physical health and your emotional wellness and your spiritual and financial health. All those things we're going to talk about at these events. So let's encourage everybody. We're focusing on how to build better male leaders, but we can't do it. When Gregory said earlier, we can't do it without our women. We need them. And whether you are from the Caucasian persuasion, and we're visiting your business, there's things that you need to know about Black people when we enter your places of employment. We're going to talk about it, right? If you're a teacher or a coach, there's different ways, you have to consider when you're dealing with a minority child, a child of color, right? We're going to talk about all those kind of things. Visiting your doctor, how to be an advocate, how to push your doctor to take better care of you. We're going to talk about those things. So make sure y'all come out. LifeIWantEvent.com, September the 27th in Texarkana. And man, my boy Gregory, he's going to bring the heat. I already know he's going to bring the heat. And I don't know if you want to plug something that you're going to talk about specifically, but
yeah. Listen, and then plus you want to come because you get to meet Gerard. Think about that. You can take a picture with Gerard too. So
you
you
don't want to
be
meet me.
everybody. Besides Clyde. Everybody. Y'all.
Clyde might want to meet me and punch me in my stomach, man. I don't know. That guy needs some anger issues, management issues too. But
listen, but listen, at the this is right up my alley. So we're going to discuss, as Gerard was alluding to, or I'm just echoing what he said. We're going to talk about the whole man, as the whole man from top to bottom. Your spiritual life, you're in the natural. Of course, so many things are coming against us, and we have to discuss what is for us. And so we got the job responsibilities, the child responsibilities, the wife responsibilities, the house responsibilities. So how do you manage all that? Because it can be crippling when you feel like you don't have an outlet to say, hey, look, this is too much, without looking weak. Or you don't feel like you have an outlet to say, I need help, but you have no one to call. And so what we're going to do is we're going to talk about those things. And so I will be very specific about habits and routines that you can have that will strengthen you, that will you can do on a daily basis, that will help you keep balance and keep sharp so you don't feel overwhelmed. And then give you some other resources so that you can develop and create a plan for your life so you can really become the man that you are supposed to be. And that is the man that God created you to be. Because as I said earlier, you're created on purpose for a purpose. So let's make sure we accomplish that purpose. But then also, if you want to work with me, you can visit my website, www.gregorymckinney.net, and contact me there. We can have a consultation. I do offer a free 20-minute consultation, so don't have to worry. You can talk to me for up to 20 minutes for free, and we can just chit chat, tell me your problems. I can tell you how things go, and so we can do that as well. So visit my website, www.gregorymckinney.net. If you're interested in the book that we talked about earlier, Emotional Intelligence for Men, you can get your copy at Amazon. Type in Gregory McKinney book or Gregory McKinney Emotional Intelligence. It'll pop up right there for you. It's a quick read, but it's a powerful read. Yeah. And in that read, what you'll discover are an expression and an exploration of the emotions that we feel as men, why we feel this, and some ways to kind of to combat it, to work it out so that it works for our good. And so we're excited about that.
Yeah. And I would just end by saying to the men out there, you deserve to be happy. And I'm careful by using that word, right? There's a lot of things that we say we deserve, and I don't attribute it to that, but you just deserve to be happy and successful. And that successful can be some subjectivity to that. But I would just encourage you to come out, be a part of this. You're going to be better. It'll make you better for your family and whoever is what we said earlier in your immediate circle of influence. So come out and be a part of this great event.
It'll be great. Listen, I wish we had these conversations when we were kids, But here's the great thing, right? To all the men that are watching, to all the ladies that are watching, we can now be the resource for that upcoming generation. So if you know someone that's a few years younger than you or a few minutes younger than you, you have went through what you went through to help the people that are behind you. Information is meant to be recycled. So find someone to mentee, find someone to pour into. because your story has to mean something. If you just keep it to yourself, that's all it is, just a good story. It only becomes a ministry and it only becomes useful when you share it. So if you got wisdom, you learned a few lessons from falling down and how to pick yourself back up, go out there, help somebody along the way so that they can say, I wish they won't say, I wish someone told me. They'll say, I'm glad someone told me about these things to look for. And so, hey, Gerard, anything you want to say to the people before we get out?
Yeah. Like, subscribe, share, tell people about us. And most importantly, we depend on you for great topics. So if you could reach out to one of us, let us know what you want to talk about. Hey, I know we owe a topic to Dr. Jimothy Jameson. Man, he asked us to talk about the statistics of single women and men raising kids. Like, what does it look like? Be armed with that information so that not telling you what decision to make, but at least you can be equipped with the right information to help you make the decision you need, to get the resources that helps your family. So we need to talk about that. Maybe we can put it in with a couple other topics, but just asking y'all to reach out to us. If you got anything that you would like for us to discuss, some guests that would love to be on the podcast, whatever, let us know, and we love to have them.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Gerard, it's been great talking to you, my brother. But to all our friends, family, thank you for watching. We love you. And in the meantime, peace, love, hair grease. We out.